As much as I get a chuckle when Donald Trump calls her dumb as rocks Kamala or cackling Kamala, I laugh at that, but I'm also a diehard Trump supporter and a Trump voter. But the attacks on her personally, on whatever her past personally may have been, or calling her a childless lady, none of those are going to work, and they're going to make women second guess their support for what they may have felt for Donald Trump. Bad move.
An openly MAGA Fox News host has been visibly panicking and publicly warning Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans to not make a critical mistake, which may well cost them the 2024 election, and they're making it anyway. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we have several clips to talk about in this video. As a reminder, if I sound strange, I'm recovering from an illness, so please bear with me.
So I want to play a couple of clips before I get to the MAGA Fox host in question, just to set the stage. I want to show you what Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and other Fox News personalities have been saying about the presumptive Democratic nominee and Donald Trump's new opponent, Vice President Kamala Harris. We're going to start with Trump.
I know Donald Trump's type. And in this campaign, I promise you, I will proudly put my record against his any day of the week.
As the attack, what's the retort?
Well, I think it's disgusting, and I get a kick out of one thing. They say, sir, be nice. You just got hit with a bullet. Maybe he's changed. Be nice. And I'd love to be nice, but I'm dealing against
real garbage.
So, again, a couple of things here before we play the next clip. Of course, Vice President Kamala Harris is right to say she should put her record, the record of Biden-Harris, versus the record of Trump-Pence, because the Biden-Harris record is just objectively better in pretty much all ways by far to the Trump-Pence record. I think it's also funny that Donald Trump is just openly mocking anyone, any deluded centrist and civility politic pilled Republican who is just in complete denial about who Donald Trump is, who suggested that, you know what, this near assassination attempt was going to change Donald Trump. It was going to recalibrate Donald Trump. Donald Trump was going to abandon his toxicity, his divisiveness, and become a more presidential figure. Even he is mocking people who believe that nonsense. Donald Trump is never going to change. He is still the divisive, unpopular, nasty figure he always has been.
Is that we're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made, and so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too. And it's just a bit.
So again, they're referencing Vice President Harris, who, as far as she has stepchildren from her marriage to the second gentleman, but no biological children of her own. Of course, you see that these, conservative, regressive Republicans very often associate the value of a woman to whether or not she's married or have children. It's disgusting. It is regressive. It's outdated. And yet we see it from prominent political figures in 2024. What about Fox News? How have they been describing the vice president?
Yeah, and then there's the DEI press secretary telling you that the DEI vice president is the future of the party here. And so the future looks kind of dim for the Democrats here, but this is no shocker either. Kamala Harris, she's the original Haktua girl. That's the way she got where she is. And the party's going downhill if it's in her hands.
That was tough. That was harsh.
It was so bad that even other Fox News hosts were kind of cringing. Some of them were laughing too. But the Haktua reference, of course, it's a viral meme. It's referring to someone performing a sexual act, a blowjob. And so the insinuation is that Vice President Harris effectively had to sleep her way to the top. Again, it's a disgusting accusation that we've been seeing about circulating the vice president for years, and they're blowing the dust off of it to try to undermine her position, undermine her credibility, undermine her record. Now, we've set the stage. These are the sort of things that Trump says about Vice President Harris, the sort of things that J.D. Vance says about Vice President Harris, and some things that, the sort of things that even right-wing media has to say about Vice President Harris. Now let's get to the warning. We have Tomi Lahren, an openly, proudly, unambiguously MAGA Trump-supporting Fox News host. There's no inference involved. She'll even admit it concretely in another clip I'm going to show you. But here is her publicly panicking on Fox News and issuing a stark, blunt warning to Trump, to J.D. Vance, and to MAGA Republicans to not do this against Vice President Kamala Harris because she believes it will cost Republicans the election.
Now they've got about 100 days of a honeymoon period that might very well last 50 to 60 days where people are still going to be just excited that they have Kamala Harris. They're not going to dig into her record. They're not going to be bothered by her record because they're going to be so excited for probably the next 50 days. Well, we've only got about 100 until a general election and even fewer to early voting.
Yeah.
So don't get too comfortable on the Trump side. And I'm sure we're going to talk about this later, but the attacks on her personally, on whatever her past personally may have been, or calling her a childless lady, none of those are going to work, and they're going to make women second guess their support for what they may have felt for Donald Trump. Bad move.
Ooh, there are a lot of strong points in that for Republicans. I mean, depending on how much you love Donald Trump and do or don't like his VP pick, some of that was for J.D. Vance.
Yeah.
Again, Tomi Lahren, somebody who, like, if you're familiar with her, she was on Blaze TV, I believe, and some other places. She's a frequent guest on Piers Morgan. We're about to play a clip of that as well, in which she and Piers both, these outspoken Trump allies, even though Piers, tries to have a foot in both worlds and, downplay his close friendship and association with Trump. The visible panic is worth noting. Tomi Lahren isn't stupid. She knows that the anti-Trump coalition is simply bigger, more populous than the Trump coalition. They're just less motivated usually. Trump's cult is motivated to turn out for him, but he can motivate people to either join the anti-Trump coalition or to activate people already nominally in the anti-Trump coalition who might not otherwise turn out to vote. She knows that if both sides turn out in force, Trump loses because the side against Trump is and has always been and always shall be bigger than the pro-Trump side. That's why she's panicking about this, that Trump's nature, just who he is as a person and what he has created, what he has, imbued within the MAGA movement will turn people off that Trump not just couldn't use, but needs. He needs them to win. And she again reissued this warning along with Piers Morgan. Again, you can just see the palpable fear on them. They dread the fact that Vice President Kamala Harris is now the presumptive Democratic nominee because it shifts the momentum away from Trump and makes the election even more competitive. They are basically pleading with MAGA to not be MAGA.
It seems to me that Trump would be much better advised, as would J.D. Vance, rather than going ad hominem with Kamala Harris, however ad hominem she gets with Trump. Better to try and rise above it. It's not his greatest quality doing that, but to rise above it and pick her off on her record while being vice president, most notably given her position as a kind of immigration czar, when really by any definition of her performance, she's been a complete train wreck. She said, don't come in, and 8 million people promptly came in. Would you think that's a better strategy for Trump Vance, is to just literally go after the record, not the woman?
I agree wholeheartedly. As much as I get a chuckle when Donald Trump calls her dumb as rocks Kamala or cackling Kamala, I laugh at that, but I'm also a diehard Trump supporter and a Trump voter. But I do worry, and I've been cautioning my own party and Trump supporters about this for the last few days, that it's not going to play well when Donald Trump does it with moderates and with the suburban women that he needs to win over. So I agree with you. Donald Trump needs to channel every ounce of presidential attitude that he has in his being, which for him might not be so easy. And
I love it. It's a tacit admission. He just doesn't have the character or energy or posture to be president. He's a bully. He's a malignant narcissist. He's a thin-skinned weirdo. He's a loser. He won in 2016 because of the Electoral College, which is affirmative action for conservatives. They can't win elections otherwise. And then he and then he lost the popular vote, right? He lost the popularity contest to Hillary Clinton, of all people, by 3 million votes. People smack talk Hillary Clinton. Well, she is more popular than Donald Trump because she beat him by 3 million votes. He presided over Republican defeats in 2018, the midterms. He presided over a Republican defeat in 2020 with the presidential reelection. He lost both the Electoral College and the popular vote to President Biden, lost the popular vote by 7 million votes. 2021, the Senate runoff, he lost the Senate in Georgia, a red state. Democrats flipped 2 red state Senate seats on Donald Trump's watch. They lost the 2022 midterms. They lost the 2023 off-year elections. And this election, despite every political advantage for Trump, is enormously competitive. He is a loser. And so this idea that, you know, I love it. Piers and Tommy are basically like, Donald Trump just needs to be somebody other than who he is. That's how desperate they are. And they know they're smart enough to recognize that Trump being Trump will people off. And this is also something that has been pointed out to Piers and to Tommy as well. And we have, again, additional data to support it. But Vice President Harris, who has never been particularly popular, totally honest about that, there's time to change, her approval rating is higher than Trump's. I mean, this is, I love pointing this out. It's so fun. I do. It brings me enormous joy to point this out to MAGA Republicans who genuinely believe that Donald Trump is a messianic figure. He's Christ. They think that he is the most popular, important person in the history of civilization, and that if he meets 10 people, 9 of them either openly or secretly love him. The fact of the matter, and it is a fact, and facts don't care about your feelings, gang, is Donald Trump has never been popular. Donald Trump has never been well-liked. Donald Trump never hit 50% approval rating when he was president. Always, a majority of the nation did not approve of Donald Trump. And even now, even with the benefit of 4 years of relative obscurity in the sense that the focus has been on President Biden and the Biden administration, and people tend to blame their frustrations on the Biden administration, despite the fact that, you know, people's selective memory, despite the fact that he was recently shot at in a failed assassination attempt, which you would think would create this groundswell of sympathy as it has in the past. The fact that he was the beneficiary of a rock star-like convention, the RNC. Donald Trump can only crack 40% approval. 40%. That is how disliked this man is. So when people say, well, Vice President Kamala Harris isn't particularly well liked, the difference is people are flexible on the vice president. She has likable qualities. That approval and disapproval can increase. Trump will never be particularly well liked. It's set in stone. He's capped. That is her advantage. She has not achieved her maximum political potential. She has room to grow in her popularity, grow in her approval rating. Donald Trump is capped. And woe be unto MAGA, because Kamala Harris has 100 days